The mountain air bit at Nathan Reed's face as he adjusted his camera's focus, tracking a rare mountain fox through his telephoto lens. Dawn had barely broken over the Cascade Range, casting long shadows across the rugged terrain. As a wildlife photographer, he'd spent countless mornings like this, waiting for the perfect shot, but something felt different about today. The air seemed to hum with an energy he couldn't explain. The fox's ears suddenly pricked up, and it darted away. Nathan lowered his camera with a frown. That's when he saw it, a streak of silver light cutting across the sky, followed by a sound like thunder. The ground trembled beneath his boots as something crashed into the mountainside about half a mile ahead. Nathan's first instinct was to call the authorities, but curiosity got the better of him. He'd built his career on capturing the unexpected, and whatever had just fallen from the sky could be the shot of a lifetime. Securing his camera, he began hiking toward the impact site. The closer he got, the stranger things became. The air shimmered with an otherworldly heat, and his phone's screen flickered with interference. As he crested a ridge, he stopped dead in his tracks. Below him lay a shallow crater, and in its center stood a figure that defied explanation. She was tall, with skin that seemed to shimmer like mother-of-pearl in the morning light. Her armor, if that's what it was, looked like liquid metal flowing over her form. But what caught Nathan's attention most were her eyes. They glowed with an inner light, like stars captured in twilight. She was beautiful in an alien way that made his heart race with both fear and wonder. The stranger was wounded, one hand pressed against her side where the armor had cracked, revealing a network of glowing veins beneath. She looked up at him, and their eyes met. Nathan felt rooted to the spot, unable to move or speak. "I mean no harm," she said, her voice carrying an accent he'd never heard before, musical and strange. "But I need help." Before Nathan could respond, a high-pitched whine filled the air. 3 black objects, like deadly mechanical wasps, emerged from the clouds. The alien woman's expression hardened, and she pushed herself upright despite her injuries. "Run," she commanded, but Nathan stood his ground. He'd never abandoned a subject in distress, human or animal, and he wasn't about to start now. The drone-like objects opened fire with beams of energy that scorched the ground. The alien warrior moved with impossible grace despite her wounds, her hands weaving patterns in the air that manifested as shields of pure energy. She deflected the attacks, but Nathan could see her strength failing. Acting on instinct, he pulled out his camera's flash unit and waited for the drones to align. When they grouped together for another attack run, he triggered the flash at full power. The intense burst of light confused their sensors just long enough for the warrior to strike. Her hands thrust forward, sending a wave of energy that shattered 2 of the drones. The third retreated into the clouds. She stumbled, and Nathan rushed to catch her before she fell. Up close, her skin felt warm, almost feverish, and seemed to pulse with its own inner light. "My cabin's not far," he said. "Can you walk?" She nodded, leaning against him. "I am Astra," she said softly. "Why did you help me?" Nathan adjusted his grip to better support her weight. "Because it was the right thing to do. I'm Nathan. And I think we both have a lot of questions for each other." They made their way slowly through the forest, each step deliberate. Nathan knew his life had just changed irrevocably, but looking at the extraordinary being beside him, he couldn't bring himself to regret it. As they walked, Astra told him of her people, the Celestial Guard, and their desperate fight against the Void Dominion, an empire of conquest that had set its sights on Earth. "Your world is in danger," she said as they reached his cabin. "And I fear I've just made you a part of this war." Nathan helped her inside, his mind racing with the implications. "Then we better make sure you heal quickly," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "Because it sounds like Earth's going to need all the help it can get." As he treated her wounds with his first aid kit, Nathan couldn't help but wonder what he'd gotten himself into. But watching Astra's determined expression as she planned their next move, he knew one thing for certain: his days of just photographing wildlife were over. He was about to document something far more extraordinary, humanity's first steps into a larger universe, and perhaps, if they were lucky, its salvation. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of tension and preparation. Nathan watched as Astra used components from the destroyed drones to construct what she called a shield beacon, a device meant to mask their presence from orbital scanning. Her wounds were healing at an remarkable rate, the glowing veins beneath her skin pulsing with increased intensity. "Your government has already detected my crash landing," Astra said, her fingers dancing over the alien technology. "They're not as primitive as the Dominion believes." She cast a knowing glance at Nathan's laptop, where multiple news sites reported mysterious electromagnetic disturbances in the Cascades. Nathan packed his camera gear, including several long-range lenses. "How long until they find us?" As if answering his question, the distant sound of helicopter rotors echoed through the valley. Astra's head snapped up, her star-bright eyes narrowing. "We need to leave. Now." They barely had time to grab their supplies before the first black helicopters appeared over the ridge. Nathan recognized the unmarked aircraft, definitely not standard military. As they slipped out the back door, he caught glimpses of figures in dark tactical gear rappelling from the helicopters. "This way," Nathan whispered, leading them down a narrow deer trail he discovered during his photography expeditions. The path wound through dense undergrowth, barely visible unless you knew exactly where to look. Astra moved silently beside him, her liquid metal armor adapting to the environment, taking on forest-like patterns. They crossed a shallow stream, using the water to mask their tracks, then climbed up a steep ravine that Nathan knew led to a network of old mining tunnels. "Your knowledge of this terrain is impressive," Astra commented as they caught their breath in the shadow of an overhanging rock. "I've spent years photographing wildlife here," Nathan replied, checking his satellite phone for signals. "You learn every hiding spot when you're tracking shy animals." He paused, looking at her. "Speaking of tracking, how did they find us so quickly?" Astra's expression darkened. "The Dominion has infiltrators everywhere. They've been preparing for this invasion longer than you know." She touched the shield beacon at her belt. "This will hide us from their advanced technology, but conventional tracking." She gestured at the helicopters still circling in the distance. Nathan nodded grimly. "We need to keep moving. The tunnels ahead connect to an old Forest Service road. I have a friend who owns a cabin about 20 miles north, might be our best shot at laying low for a while." As they made their way through the dimly lit mining tunnels, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. His years in the wilderness had taught him to trust his instincts. He raised his hand, signaling Astra to stop. They listened in tense silence. A small stone skittered down the tunnel behind them. Astra's armor rippled, weapons forming from the liquid metal. "We're not alone." 3 beams of light cut through the darkness. "Federal agents. Don't move." Nathan felt Astra tense beside him, ready for combat, but he grabbed her arm. "Wait. If they're real federal agents, we might be able to talk to them. We need allies, not more enemies." The lights drew closer, revealing 3 agents in tactical gear, their weapons trained on the pair. The lead agent, a woman with steel-gray hair and sharp eyes, studied them intently. "I'm Agent Director Blackwood," she announced. "We've been tracking unusual energy signatures in this area for the past month. I think it's time we had a conversation about what's really going on in these mountains." Nathan felt his heart pounding. This could either be their salvation or their doom. He glanced at Astra, whose expression remained unreadable. "Your world faces extinction," Astra said finally, her voice echoing in the tunnel. "We can trust them with the truth, or we can run. Choose quickly, Nathan." Agent Blackwood lowered her weapon slightly. "Extinction?" Nathan took a deep breath. "You might want to sit down for this, Agent Blackwood." It's one hell of a story. Over the next hour, in that dim tunnel, they laid out the situation. The Void Dominion's planned invasion. Astra's role as a celestial guard. The infiltrators already on Earth. With each revelation, Blackwood's expression grew more grave. "If what you're saying is true," she said finally, "we need to move fast. But there are forces within our own government that may be compromised. Trust will be our most valuable currency." "Then we work together," Nathan suggested, but quietly. "Off the books." Astra nodded slowly. "Your human intelligence networks, combined with my knowledge of the Dominion's tactics, could give us a fighting chance," Blackwood finished. She pulled out a secure satellite phone. "I have a facility. Underground, off-grid. We can." The tunnel suddenly filled with a high-pitched whine. Astra's eyes widened. Down. The ceiling exploded above them as more mechanical drones burst through the rock. But these weren't like the ones from before, they were larger, more aggressive, with multiple weapon ports glowing with deadly energy. "Looks like the Dominion decided to stop playing nice," Nathan shouted, ducking behind a support beam as energy blasts scorched the walls around them. The battle for Earth was about to begin in earnest, and their only hope lay in the unlikely alliance forged in these dark tunnels. As Nathan watched Astra and Blackwood's team engage the drones, he realized that humanity's greatest strength might not be its weapons or technology, but its ability to adapt, to trust, and to fight alongside anyone who shared their cause. The underground facility hummed with activity as Nathan reviewed his photographs on a high-resolution monitor. Over the past week, he'd captured images of suspected Void Dominion activity across the Pacific Northwest, strange energy signatures, unusual atmospheric disturbances, and most worryingly, gatherings of people whose movements seemed too coordinated to be coincidental. Astra stood behind him, her presence warming the air like a miniature sun. Her armor had fully repaired itself, flowing like quicksilver whenever she moved. "These patterns," she said, pointing to a series of lights in the night sky. "They're positioning orbital strike platforms. The invasion grows near." Agent Blackwood entered the room, accompanied by a small team of trusted analysts. "Our deep space monitoring stations are picking up increasing activity at the edge of the solar system. Whatever's coming, it's big." "The Dominion never sends a small force," Astra replied, her voice tight with memory. "They consume worlds whole, strip them of resources, and move on. My people have fought them across 3 galaxies." Nathan turned from the monitors. "You never told me what happened to your homeworld." Astra's star-bright eyes dimmed slightly. "There was no time to evacuate. The Celestial Guard fought to the last warrior, buying time for a handful of ships to escape. I was among them, barely more than a cadet." Her hand unconsciously touched the spot where she'd been wounded when Nathan first found her. "We've been fighting ever since, trying to prevent other worlds from sharing our fate." The room fell silent, the weight of her words settling over everyone. Nathan reached out and took her hand, surprised by how human the gesture felt, how natural. Her fingers intertwined with his, warm and alive. "Tell us everything," Blackwood said. "We need to know what we're up against." Over the next few hours, Astra laid out the brutal details of the Void Dominion's tactics. Their ability to infiltrate societies through advanced mimicry technology. Their harvest ships that could strip a planet's resources in days. Their armies of cybernetically enhanced shock troops and automated war machines. "But they have weaknesses," Astra continued, bringing up a holographic display from her armor's systems. "Their technology relies heavily on quantum entanglement networks. Disrupt those, and their forces lose coordination." "That's why you came to Earth," Nathan realized. "You're not just warning us, you're setting up a trap." Astra smiled, a fierce expression that made her glow brighter. "Earth's magnetic field and atmospheric composition create unique interference patterns. With the right equipment, we could turn your entire planet into a quantum disruption zone. But I needed help to set up the network before they noticed. Blackwood leaned forward. What do you need from us? Your highest mountains. Sacred places where the planet's energy flows strongly. I must place resonators at specific points to create the disruption field. She brought up a map showing locations across the globe. But the Dominion will try to stop us. They've already begun moving their assets into position. Nathan studied the map, recognizing several locations from his photography expeditions. I know these terrains. I can get us there. It's too dangerous, Astra protested, but Nathan shook his head. You said it yourself, we need to work together. My knowledge of Earth's wilderness, your advanced technology, Blackwood's resources, it's our only chance. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red emergency lights began flashing as personnel rushed to their stations. Multiple bogies incoming, a technician shouted. Energy signatures matched the hostile drones, but bigger. Much bigger. Astra's armor rippled with combat readiness. They're testing our defenses, looking for weaknesses. We're out of time. Then we move now, Blackwood ordered, already coordinating with her team. How many resonators can you make? With the materials here? 3. Maybe 4. Astra's hands moved in complex patterns, drawing energy and matter from her armor to begin construction. I'm coming with you, Nathan said firmly, checking his camera gear out of habit. He'd added some modifications of his own, special filters to detect energy signatures, hardened cases to protect against electromagnetic interference. Astra paused in her work, looking at him with an expression that mixed concern with something deeper. This isn't your fight. It became my fight the moment I found you in those mountains. He stepped closer, voice dropping so only she could hear. Besides, someone needs to document humanity's first interstellar war. Might as well be me. A small smile touched her lips, making the starlight in her eyes dance. Your species continues to surprise me, Nathan Reed. Such courage in the face of impossible odds. That's kind of our thing, he replied with a grin. We're too stubborn to know when we're outmatched. The facility shook as the first attacks hit the outer defenses. Blackwood's team scrambled to battle stations as tactical displays showed multiple enemy contacts converging on their position. We'll hold them here, Blackwood assured them, checking her weapons. Buy you time to get the first resonators in place. Just. She paused, looking between them. Try not to die out there. Earth's going to need both of you before this is over. As they prepared to leave through the facility's emergency tunnels, Nathan caught Astra watching him with an unreadable expression. What is it? On my world, she said softly, we had a saying, the brightest stars burn in the darkest nights. I never truly understood it until I came here, until I met you. Before Nathan could respond, she leaned in and kissed him. Her lips felt like touching sunlight, sending warmth through his entire body. When she pulled back, her glow had intensified, making her look more radiant than ever. Now, she said, her warrior's focus returning, let's go save your world. Together, they headed into the tunnels as the sounds of battle echoed behind them. The fate of Earth would be decided in the coming days, but in that moment, Nathan felt invincible. He had found something worth fighting for, not just his planet, but a future where humans and celestial guards might stand together among the stars. The wind howled around them as Nathan and Astra reached the summit of Mount Baker. Far below, clouds roiled with unnatural patterns, pierced occasionally by flashes of energy weapons. The battle for Earth had begun in earnest, with Blackwood's forces engaging Void Dominion units across the Pacific Northwest. This is the third resonator point, Nathan said, consulting the map displayed on his modified camera screen. 2 more to go after this. Astra pulled the crystalline device from her armor's storage compartment. The resonator hummed with power, its internal lattices glowing with the same starlight that filled her eyes. As she began the installation process, Nathan photographed the surrounding area, his specialized filters revealing the invisible energies gathering around the peak. The quantum disruption field is already taking shape, Astra observed, her hands moving in precise patterns as she calibrated the device. Once all 5 resonators are active, a massive shadow fell over them as a Void Dominion harvester ship burst through the cloud cover. The vessel resembled a metallic leviathan, its hull writhing with dark energy tendrils that seemed to drink in light itself. Down! Nathan pulled Astra behind a rock formation as energy beams lanced from the ship, turning the snow to steam where they struck. The resonator lay exposed, only halfway through its activation sequence. "We can't lose this one," Astra said grimly. Her armor rippled, forming more complex weapons configurations than Nathan had seen before. "Cover me." Before he could protest, she darted from cover, drawing the harvester's fire. Nathan watched in awe as she moved with impossible grace, her energy shields deflecting attacks while she returned fire with precise bursts that scored the massive ship's hull. Not wanting to be useless, Nathan raised his camera. The modifications they'd made using Celestial Guard technology let him detect subtle energy fluctuations. Through his viewfinder, he noticed something. "Astra. The port ventral section, there's a power concentration building up." She rolled just as a massive energy beam erupted from the spot he'd identified, the attack missing her by inches. Her return fire struck the weakened area, causing secondary explosions along the ship's hull. The harvester listed to one side, smoke pouring from multiple breaches, but it wasn't finished. Hatches opened along its length, disgorging dozens of combat drones and armored Void Dominion troops. "The resonator needs 3 more minutes." Astra called out, engaging the nearest enemies. Her liquid metal armor flowed like quicksilver, forming blades and energy weapons as she fought. Nathan's hand found the modified radio transmitter at his belt, another piece of hybrid technology they developed. "Blackwood, we need backup at Baker. Now." "Already incoming," the agent's voice crackled back. "Hold tight." The air filled with the sound of rotors as 3 black helicopters appeared, modified with Celestial Guard weapons. They opened fire on the Void forces, providing crucial support as Astra carved through the enemy ranks. Nathan wasn't idle. Between taking photos that could reveal enemy weak points, he used his knowledge of the mountain terrain to lead pursuing troops into natural hazards, loose scree slopes and hidden crevasses. One particularly aggressive group followed him right into an avalanche zone, where a few well-placed shots from his flare gun triggered a cascade of snow and ice. The resonator's hum reached a crescendo just as Astra dispatched the last of the ground forces. The harvester ship, despite its damage, lined up for another attack run. "Nathan." Astra's voice carried over the wind. "The quantum field, watch." As the resonator reached full power, it connected with the other 2 they'd placed. Lines of force became visible in the air, forming a triangular pattern that caught the harvester in its web. The ship's dark energy systems began to fail, its mighty engines sputtering as the quantum disruption took hold. Like a dying whale, the massive vessel crashed into the mountainside below them. The explosion shook the peak, but their position held. "One small victory," Astra said, her glow dimmed from exertion as she rejoined Nathan. "But they'll send more." Nathan helped steady her, noticing new damage to her armor that leaked traces of luminous blood. "You're hurt. It will heal." She touched his face gently, her fingers leaving trails of warmth. "Your warning saved my life down there. We make a good team." "The best," he agreed, then grew serious. "But Astra, that ship was just a scout, wasn't it? What's really coming?" Her expression darkened. "The Void Dominion's main fleet. Thousands of ships, millions of troops. We have perhaps 2 days before they arrive." She looked out over the cloud-strewn landscape. Even with the quantum disruption field, the battle will be difficult. Nathan's hand found hers, squeezing gently. Then we better make these next 2 days count. A series of explosions lit up the horizon, more Void Dominion forces engaging Earth's defenders. Blackwood's voice came over the radio, reporting similar battles erupting worldwide. The enemy was trying to stop them from completing the resonator network. Mount Fuji is next, Astra said, already plotting their course. Its spiritual significance makes it a natural focal point for the quantum field. Then what are we waiting for? Nathan checked his gear, pushing aside his exhaustion. The sooner we get there, the sooner we can show the Void Dominion they picked the wrong planet to invade. Astra's starlight eyes met his, filled with both worry and determination. You understand that even if we succeed, your world will never be the same? Once humanity knows about the wider universe, about the wars being fought in the dark between stars. Maybe that's not such a bad thing, Nathan replied, thinking of how much his own world had expanded since finding her in the mountains. Sometimes change is worth the risk. As they made their way down the mountain, guided by Blackwood's helicopters, Nathan felt a strange mix of fear and hope. The next 48 hours would determine not just Earth's fate, but the future of human civilization itself. Yet looking at the extraordinary being beside him, he couldn't help but feel that humanity was ready for whatever came next. The real question was, would the Void Dominion be ready for humanity? The sky above Tokyo burned. Void Dominion warships filled the heavens like angry stars, their dark hulls blocking out the sun as they engaged Earth's combined military forces. The quantum disruption field, powered by 4 active resonators, had already destroyed dozens of enemy vessels, but more kept coming. Nathan and Astra raced through the grounds of Mount Fuji's ancient shrine, carrying the final resonator. Dawn was breaking, painting the sacred mountain in shades of gold and crimson that matched the battle raging above. We have incoming. Agent Blackwood's voice crackled over their comms. Her remaining forces were spread thin, defending the other resonator sites from constant attack. A squad of Void Dominion shock troops materialized ahead, their armor crackling with dark energy. Astra moved without hesitation, her liquid metal weaponry forming a devastating array of blades and energy weapons. Nathan had learned to fight alongside her, using his knowledge of terrain and human ingenuity to complement her advanced capabilities. The shrine, he called out, spotting the designated point for the final resonator. 50 meters ahead. Astra carved a path through the enemy forces, her movements a deadly dance of precision and power. But Nathan saw the toll it was taking, her glow had dimmed, her wounds from previous battles barely healed. They reached the shrine just as a massive tremor shook the mountain. Above them, the clouds parted to reveal the Void Dominion's flagship, a vessel the size of a small city, its surface writhing with concentrated darkness. The Worldender, Astra breathed, her voice tight with recognition. Their supreme commander never deploys it unless victory is certain. Nathan set up the resonator, his hands steady despite everything. Then they're in for a surprise, aren't they? A deep, otherworldly voice boomed across the battlefield, emanating from the massive ship above. Celestial Guard, it rumbled, you have fought well. But your resistance ends here. This world, like all others, will fall. Astra stood tall, her starlight burning brighter. You never understood, did you? Why the Celestial Guard keeps fighting even after our world was lost. She helped Nathan align the final resonator. Because some things are worth protecting, no matter the cost. The Worldender's response was a barrage of energy weapons that lit up the sky. But something had changed. Earth's military forces, coordinated by Blackwood and equipped with modified weapons, met the assault with unexpected effectiveness. Human ingenuity combined with Celestial Guard technology had created defenses the Dominion never anticipated. 20 seconds to full power, Nathan announced, watching the resonator's energy levels climb. Around them, Void troops converged on their position, desperate to stop what was coming. Astra's armor flowed like liquid starlight as she defended their position. "Nathan," she called over her shoulder, "if this works." "I know," he replied, understanding what she couldn't say. The quantum disruption field at full power would sever all advanced technology in Earth's orbit, including her ability to maintain her corporeal form. The resonator hummed louder, connecting with its 4 counterparts across the globe. Lines of force became visible in the air, forming a complex geometric pattern that encompassed the entire planet. "You have to go," Nathan said, his heart breaking even as he spoke the words. "Your ship is still in orbit. If you're here when the field activates." Astra turned to him, her starlight eyes filled with emotions that transcended human words. "My ship was destroyed in the first battle," she said softly. "I chose to stay. I chose this world. I chose you." Before Nathan could respond, the Worldender launched its final assault. A beam of concentrated void energy lanced down from the massive ship, aimed directly at their position. Astra moved faster than thought, her armor transforming into a shield of pure light. The void beam struck her defense with apocalyptic force, the collision of energies creating a shockwave that shattered windows for miles. "Now, Nathan," she cried out, holding back destruction itself. "Activate it now." Nathan slammed his hand down on the resonator's activation crystal. The quantum disruption field surged to full power, creating a cascade effect that rippled across the globe. Above them, the Void Dominion fleet began to falter as their quantum systems failed. Ships crashed into each other or fell from the sky, their advanced technology rendered useless. The Worldender's beam cut out as the massive vessel systems failed. The great ship, symbol of the Dominion's unstoppable conquest, began to break apart in Earth's atmosphere. But the victory came with a price. Astra collapsed, her armor flickering like a dying star. Nathan caught her, cradling her as her light dimmed. "Stay with me," he pleaded. "We won. You can't leave now." She smiled, reaching up to touch his face. "I'm not leaving," she whispered. "I'm changing. Evolution, adaptation, humanity isn't the only species that can surprise the universe." Her body began to transform, the liquid metal armor melding with her form. The starlight in her eyes spread throughout her being, and for a moment, Nathan feared she was fading away entirely. Instead, something miraculous happened. The quantum disruption field, designed to neutralize advanced technology, had an unexpected effect on her hybrid physiology. Rather than destroying her, it forced an adaptation, a perfect fusion of her celestial essence with a form that could exist in Earth's reality. When the transformation finished, she still glowed with inner light, but now in a way that could thrive in Earth's atmosphere. Her armor had become part of her, a second skin that shimmered like mother of pearl. "How do you feel?" Nathan asked, helping her stand as the sun rose over a changed world. "Like belonging," she answered, looking out over the landscape where humans were already mobilizing to deal with the aftermath of the invasion. "Your world has such capacity for growth, for adaptation. The Void Dominion never stood a chance." In the days that followed, humanity took its first steps into a larger universe. The wreckage of the invasion provided new technologies, and Astra's knowledge helped guide Earth's advancement. But more importantly, her presence, and her choice to stay, represented hope for humanity's future among the stars. Nathan continued his photography, documenting Earth's transformation and the integration of human and celestial guardian knowledge. But his favorite subject remained the extraordinary being who had chosen love over duty, Earth over the stars, and in doing so, found a way to have both. "What happens now?" he asked her one evening, as they stood on Mount Fuji watching Earth's first starships launch into the sunset. Astra's starlight eyes sparkled with joy and possibility. Now we help write humanity's next chapter. Together." Above them, the stars seemed brighter than ever before, no longer distant and unreachable, but full of promise and adventure. Earth had faced its trial by fire and emerged stronger, ready to take its place in the cosmic community. And somewhere in the vast reaches of space, the surviving Void Dominion forces carried word of the small blue planet that had defied their power, and of the celestial guard and human who had shown that love, more than any weapon, could change the fate of worlds.